Good afternoon and welcome to the November 9th meeting of the Rotary Club of South Jacksonville. For our Zoom members, and there are a couple of you, we are very happy that you can join us. Please remember to mute yourself, submit any questions via chat or unmute and talk. Thank you. We thank our greeter, Vicki Lynn Glover, and the prayer and pledge today will be given by John Pope.
Well, let's do the pledge first. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow your heads, please. Lord, help us to remember as we walk along life's pathway that whatever we might say, let it be only the truth. Whatever steps we take in life, let them build goodwill and better friendships. Whatever goals we strive to accomplish, let them be beneficial to all concerned. We ask you to help us to never lose sight of our many blessings, including the food we partake of today. Amen.
Amen.
Here, this is fine. Or if you zoomed in, that's probably it. I talked to people, see if that's.
Just say something into it.
That was it.
All right.
Bill, I think that was it.
Good. Christy King, family time. Welcome this afternoon.
Okay, we'll start with wedding anniversaries today. Ryan Goldtree and his wife Elizabeth celebrated 11 years of marriage on November 8th. For birthdays, Ron Patrick celebrated his birthday on November 8th, and Ben Samuels and I are both celebrating birthdays on November 14th. Last but not least, it's President Richard's birthday today, so it'd be great if we could all join in on singing happy birthday.
Nice.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Richard. Happy birthday to
Thank you, Christy. Yes. This morning I thought I was 680 years old, but I have trouble with decimals. All right, some announcements. Once again, if you would like to reach out to Patty and express your sympathy on the passing of her husband, Joel, cards and notes can be directed to the South Jacksonville Rotary address on the website. We have an oratory contest update from Michelle Kindy.
Good afternoon. On your table,
Can you come up to the
Oh,
front? Just
I
so
promised
people
her
can
that
hear?
she could be in the back.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know.
Hi. Hi. Leslie requested that there be an update on the oratory competition. And I am here to talk to you just about the update with regards to the sponsorship opportunities, because I struck out 3 times finding a title for this year. So a title sponsor, which would have been $15,000. We had 3 very interested parties, but because of timing and COVID and other things, we just couldn't make it happen today. So they're on the list for next year. But in the meantime, we do want to draw everyone's attention to a new opportunity, which is a naming of the table sponsorship. It's $1,000. And you get your name on the table at the event for WJCT. And there's some other things that are in there. It's the big orange block, because I was hoping to not have to talk, that we could just point to it. But if we know we have a minimum of 15 tables at $1,000 a piece that will replace what we're missing out in terms of the title. It also gives organizations, companies, and corporations the opportunity to be associated with such a first-class program, but there is no need to fill your table, which seems to be everyone's fear right now, is that if they buy a table, they'll never fill it. So if you want to make sure that your name is there and your company is recognized, we will make sure that that happens. We just need your logo and your check, and then we will go from there. So thank you very much. Oh, yes, sorry. Sorry.
If you want to fill your table, though, you can.
Yes, you can. Yes, if you decide you want, and if it's one of those things where if you just let us know how many seats you are going to fill. What we don't know yet because of the protocols is how many seats will be at each table yet, because of what we're still working with WJCT about what they'll allow, because they have some specific things for in-person events. But we will keep you posted as we get closer. And again, just so you know, all the regional competitions will be happening in January, and the final is in February of 2022. So we've got some time. All right, thank you.
Mike Dara, is there anything more on the gingerbread setup?
Just if I could get, and
Oh, wait a minute.
Microphone, yes. So you in Zoom land, we need your help. So last week, people raised their hand and I never wrote down names. So if y'all could raise your hand again, and I need to hope that it's more than just Dinkins, because I have worked with Dinkins. We can get a lot done. But so Dinkins, Bill, John, Vicki Lynn, Tom, for the gingerbread
And one other.
gingerbread setup. And President Richard. It is at 7:30 on the 17th. What day is that? Is that
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Is that correct? Okay, that's what we've been putting out. So is that possible, Brandon?
Possible.
Okay. With you, we could probably set it up in about 30 minutes. So, okay. All right. Thank you, Michelle. So, and we there at 7:30. Some people that have to drop off kids, other people that are just not oriented toward anything before, 8 or 8:30. That's okay. We will accept the help for whatever it's worth. Probably should take about 2 hours. If we've got a crew, I think we've got a pretty knowledgeable crew now. We may be able to knock it out in less than that. We'll give it a try. And there will be Rotary power pills there in the form of donuts, as well as lots of caffeine. All right, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks to all who attended the Vibrant Club Seminar and associated events at World Golf Village last weekend. It was excellent. And now President-elect Charlie Kofer will present the nominations for the Board of Directors for the upcoming year. Please welcome Charlie.
Thank you, President Richard. On November 4th, 2021, the nominating committee met to recommend 5 new directors to serve a 2-year term on our club's board beginning July 2022. After our meeting, each prospective nominee was contacted and asked of their willingness to serve if elected. I'm pleased to submit the following nominees for candidates to the board as candidates for the Board of Directors. Dinkins Grange, Stephen Jones, Michelle Khalil, Les Loggins, and Robert Massey. At this time, nominations are open from the floor and until our annual meeting on December 7th. At the annual meeting, all nominee names will be placed. Votes will be taken and tabulated, and the 5 candidates securing the highest number of votes shall be declared elected. So if you have any additional nominees, please get them to me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And now our 50-50 raffle with Lori Whitmer. Lori.
To our 50-50 game. These funds are going to our district grant this year with Daniel's Kids. It's a $6,000 contribution we're going to make for physical therapy equipment, some furniture to their $1.some million project they're doing there at Daniel's Kids. So That's where this money's going towards.
Lori, before you read the number, how many cards are left in the deck?
48.
Okay.
So this, yeah, we played 4 times. We haven't had a winner. And the total amount is 403 in the pot. So you would get $201.50. No,
That's good.
202. I believe it's 403. Anyway, 200 and change.
The bookies would make it.
201.50.
Draw the ace of spades. All right, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7. 6, 6, 7.
Wow.
What are the odds?
So you have to draw the ace of spades.
Yeah, right. Ace of spades. Okay, I'm feeling good today. Oh, this has got to be a. Nope, 9 of hearts.
9 of hearts. Aw.
All right.
Thank you all.
Stephen Jones will introduce our visitors and guests. Thank you, Stephen.
Well, we already had one sneak up already. Charlie Kofer, would you like to introduce our visiting Rotarian
I'd
from?
like to welcome Tom Schneider back for a second visit with us today. Tom, as you may remember, was a member of the Indianapolis Rotary. He's relocated to Jackson. Yep. So. Good to be here. Go ahead. Just make it a little
Sure.
special.
Lisa Marie Winslow has a guest.
Should have known, right? I'd like to introduce my daughter, Caitlin Winslow, as my guest today.
Adding next. Vicki Lynn has a guest.
I'm really excited to introduce Dr. Danielle Chitaboga. This is her first day with us, and she is the medical director for our Med Peds program. And for those of you who know, we're the recipient of 90% of the charity funds last year to fund the pediatric portion. So we're really thankful, and I want to come and visit us.
Fun. All right, are we ready? Maestro.
Welcome you today. So glad you came along, glad you came our way. Our hand of God is yours, sunshine or in rain. We here in Rotary say welcome, come again.
I don't think Stephen gets credit for that because he evacuated before the World
You
Cup.
don't get to shake anyone's hand when you're standing.
Yeah, that's true.
Better to have a poor excuse than none at all.
The music has revived my memory. I promised John Cumbo a moment to speak today. Please welcome.
Just real quick, on your tables are some pages with the Ronald McDonald House logo on it. These are the 3 events that I spoke about last week that we're looking or thinking of doing one as a service project. If you can just take a pen, just circle X, check, whatever your vote would be, which one you would be interested in doing, then I'm just going to tabulate them and the highest one is going to win, if that sounds good to everybody.
Circle 1.
Just circle one. Yeah, or if you want to do all 3, that's fine. We can do as many as you want. And one thing, and I don't know how to get the answer to this. If you remember, it started, Tom Cigarello had me connect with his Penn State Alumni Association. Are we interested in teaming up with them? I don't know if I want to necessarily speak for our whole Rotary as far as teaming up with organization. So I don't know if
Can we have more impact if we do it?
Yes.
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean, they are eagerly wanting to do more service projects. They want to get involved with everything from this to the bell ringing, like they want to do more stuff with us. I just didn't know if we want to necessarily. So if you got thoughts or comments, if you want to write those on the pages also, I'll take that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you can just write yes or no, and that'll just stand for if you want to do it with the alumni or not. Thank you.
Thank you. That project is well on its way. And to introduce our speaker today is Mark Varello. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, President Richard. And I'm thrilled that Dr. Peggy Fuller was able to join us today. She is on the board of directors of the Jacksonville Equestrian Center. Just discussing as one of the best kept secrets in Jacksonville. So she's going to talk to us about that. Dr. Fuller received her undergraduate degree from FSU, which is one of the reasons why I like her. And then she received her doctorate in veterinary medicine from the University of Florida, which we still like her even though she did that. And she's been one of the preeminent horse doctors. I don't even know if that's a phrase in Jacksonville for many, many years as the president and owner of Mandarin Equine Services. And her husband Chuck and their son Chuck, who is now Dr. Chuck, got his veterinary degree as well. Anyway, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, but Peggy's dad has a connection with the club, which past President Gary Wilkerson and I were talking about the other day. Dr. Fuller's dad was Admiral Byron Fuller, who many of you know as one of the true American patriots and one of the greatest heroes that's ever come out of our town. So I don't know, she may sneak in a point or two about Admiral Fuller. But anyway, pleasure to have you. Come on up.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Southjax Rotary, and thank you for being my IT person. I'm a much better veterinarian than I am a computer whiz, so I appreciate the invitation and look forward to, I see a lot of familiar faces here too, so it's nice to see Gary and our family go way back. My father that you just mentioned was the best man in their wedding, and I believe your father was also the best man in my parents' wedding, so it's nice to see some familiar faces. So what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about myself, and then also talk to you about some of my interests, some things that are here in our community, the Jacksonville Equestrian Center, and also something new that we are starting at the Equestrian Center, which is a horse therapy program. So a little bit about myself. I am the owner of Mandarin Equine Veterinary Service, and I started that practice in '91. I am an adjunct professor at the University of Florida, so we have students that come and stay with us for 2-week periods of time, and it just gives them more practical experience spending with veterinarians, doctors in the area, that they don't see things that they would see at the university. The university or the bad cases that we can't treat on an everyday basis, but the students need to see that day-to-day things that we do. As Mark said, I'm also the board chair for the Northeast Florida Equestrian Society that manages the Jacksonville Equestrian Center. I'm vice chair for the horse therapies group. I just finished my Master Gardener course, and somebody in the group, there were 44 of us that took it this year, and somebody said, now we know exactly how much we don't know, and that's true. So I thought I know a lot about gardening. I'm also the veterinarian for the North American Belgian Warm Blood Association, and basically what that does, it's just like when dogs get their hips certified, and then we want to make sure we're not passing on congenital problems, but we also do that for the horses. So I am the veterinarian in the US that does that for this certain breed of horse that comes from Europe. So a little bit about myself, why the passion for horses, and we spoke about my father
a few minutes ago. When I was very young, we lived in California, and Dad took us out to a dude ranch to ride. And he said, when I get home from my 9-month deployment from Vietnam, we'll talk about getting a horse, and we'll maybe take some lessons or whatever. So as when I was 6 years old, that stuck in my mind. Unfortunately, his 9-month deployment turned out to be, he was shot down in Vietnam in 67. And Mom promptly moved us back to Jacksonville because we had family and friends here. Like I said, the Wilkinsons have been family and friends, and my parents both grew up here in Jacksonville. So she wanted to get us back to what was familiar with us and around friends and family, et cetera. So she took us to NAS Jacks. Back then they had a stable, and we started riding and taking lessons. Well, when Dad came home, he was a prisoner of war, like I said, for 6 years. He not only came home to 4 teenagers, which was a little bit of a shock, but he also learned that he had 3 horses. So I credit my dad for my passion for horses. Fast forward, like Mark said, undergraduate degree at Florida State, and then I went to vet school at Florida. So any of you that have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews at vet school, and everybody will tell you you can't get in, it's too hard, you know. And but don't listen to that, because my mom said, well, they build them for somebody, you might as well be that person. So luckily I credit her for my career path, which was it was veterinary medicine. So my son and his girlfriend, his fiance, sorry, they're both veterinarians, small animal vets. They graduated 2 years ago. They live in Southern California, so not too close to us, but at least I get to go visit them, and a nice place to visit. And then my husband, he's been my moral support along the way. We've been married for 35 years, and he's seen my passion for the animals. And he's not that animal lover, as you say, but he goes along with it. So. The practice, Mandarin Equine, again, 91, I set it up. I have 2 associate veterinarians, and both of them grew up here in Jacksonville. And it's nice to, when I started taking care of their horses, they were about 8 years old, and they said, I want to be a veterinarian and I want to work for Dr. Peggy. So I have 2 associates now, both graduated from the University of Florida, and each truck that we send out in the field is equipped with digital radiography, digital ultrasound. We've got endoscopy. We offer regenerative therapies, PRP, IRAP, shockwave therapy. So we can pretty much do what we, for any kind of a performance horse, or we have a lot of backyard horses too, and pets. So we can pretty much take care of those animals. We had some clients that just went to the national show and did quite well. So we have an array of horses around the area. People don't think of Jacksonville as a real horsey area, but there are those clusters. And fortunately, I've been able to nurture from some very good clients, and I'm very fortunate to have the practice we do. So most of my animals that I treat are horses. Some of them, most of them are bigger than I am, but you see that we have some small ones that we can carry around. Some are a different color. Fortunately, I don't do too many of those because they're very hard to work on. As you can see, that one's under anesthesia when we have to work on it. But I do have some farms where people raise deer, and we treat those too. So we have a little bit of variety, never a dull moment. I'd like to talk to you about the Jacksonville Equestrian Center. It's what we kindly or fondly refer to it as the crown jewel of the West Side. So the Northeast Florida Equestrian Society, we were awarded the management of the center in 2014. And it's one of those, be careful what you ask for. But it's been a good thing. It's been a good thing for the center, because prior to that, the city was talking about closing down the center. It was always in the red. It was, they were being, the previous management company, which I won't name, but they were being subsidized by the city anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million a year, and their revenues were down. They just weren't produced. They weren't seeing the sponsors and the shows coming in, et cetera. So after much lobbying, the city finally awarded us the contract, and I'll share some numbers with you in a minute of what we've done, what we've been able to do. It is part of the park system, and it's one of only 2 parks in the system that actually has a revenue stream.
The other one is Hannah Park. Most of the other parks don't, but that's what, they're not here for that, but we are one of the ones that can say we do actually have a revenue stream. Most of our events are free and open to the public. The only time they're not is if a sponsor does come in, if a promoter does come in and rent the facility, let's say like for a concert, and they have to sell tickets in order to make it work, circuits, etc. But other than that, and you can check out our website, I'll share that at the very end, and most of them are open and to the public. It's a multi-purpose facility. We have the largest RV show in North Florida. It was moved from downtown to there, and ever since it moved out there, it's grown. We have concerts, rodeos, dog agility shows. We just had a big one last weekend, and we have an international, the UK dog show is this coming weekend, and it'll be actually televised internationally. We have had some weddings. We've had a couple of funerals. We don't like those, but we've had them. So we are multi-purpose. Concerts, fun runs, mud runs. We just had the Wicked Wine Run that not too long ago. So a lot of things going on out there. And like I said, look at the website, and if you're looking for things to do or bring your kids, it's a fun place to go. We're conveniently located. We have seating for 3,400 people, permanent seating, but we could add another 1,000 on the floor. Hence, we've had the concerts and other events that can accommodate a larger group. It is the largest indoor arena in the Southeast. The other one, the closest one that we can compare to is actually in Kentucky. That's how far away it is. 422 permanent stalls and 96 RV hookups. And the reason I put those in there is those were revenue streams for us too. So the more stalls we have, the more we can rent out. The same thing with the RVs. What have we done since we took over in 2014? We've replaced the footing. So the footing to us is like the Jaguar Stadium. If there's holes and divots or it doesn't drain and it's muddy and slippery, we're not going to get people to come back. The athletes are going to get hurt. And our horses are also athletes. So we were able to replace all the footing, the existing footing that was out there. We added a new covered arena with the help of the city. It was about a $1.3 million project. And now it allows us to have events in the summertime where the indoor that I just spoke of that's so large is not climate controlled. So time it can get a little toasty, but this allows us to have more events, dual events, 2 events at the same time, and have the cover to protect the people and the animals from the heat. We just completed the phase 1 of, it's the largest, level 3 is the largest tree mitigation project. And we just planted 101 trees from the newly formed City of Jacksonville Tree Mitigation Committee. So that was we just had a ribbon cutting for that, and that's phase 1. And we hope in another year or 2, we'll have another couple phases. And again, not only for aesthetic purposes, but also to give us shade for the legged and the 4-legged animals. We have secured sponsorship opportunities, and we have more available if anybody is interested. We recently purchased a water jug to keep the dust down, keep the rings watered so the footing stays good, perfect for the animals. And that was also through a generous match through Ring Power. We have added some more additional RV hookups, and we're working on bringing food service in-house. And again, those are additional revenue streams that we are working towards. So just to orient you, if you haven't been there, the main arena, and then the covered is right behind it. That's the one we just finished. We've got the RV overflow or additional RVs. The 2 new rings are down at the bottom. We just added those 2, and the tree project you don't see, but it's added to our, like I said, aesthetically, it was a little desolate out there. So what is the city? What is the city? The city wants to know numbers, right? Revenue on the left side, you can see before we took over, the far left side, 2014, 2015, that was the revenue there. It did shoot up and it continued to go up. The very last one, the interesting thing about that is you can see how high that was, and that was only the first quarter of that year. Because of COVID, we had to shut down everything like a lot of people did. So our trajectory was going in a very positive direction. The same thing, the events and the event days. again went up. We did have a dip, and COVID was one of the reasons. Sometimes you'll see a dip there. I think of the very last column, which is our economic impact numbers. We lost a few shows because the year before COVID hit, we had some hurricanes and we had some cancellations. But overall, we've had a very positive trajectory on our numbers. So the horse therapy group, it will be located at the Jacksonville Equestrian Center. It's a 501c3, and we will offer animal-assisted therapies, therapeutic riding, and adaptive riding. So the nice thing is it was always a part of that master plan. So when we went to the city and said it's time for us to get this going, they were very receptive and eager to help or support us moving forward with that. We want to achieve high sustainability, and we're hoping to do that through insurance pay. A lot of therapy programs are self-pay, but we want to also, and we want to pursue insurance pay and governmental pay for that. It'll serve a wide variety of people in our community: children, adults, military, active, retired, etc. So it's going to be a very broad spectrum. My son, when he was about this big, Mark and my son grew up together, and for I think since pre-K or something. But when he was young, and I would talk about horse therapies, and he said, "Mom, why would somebody want to get on the back of a horse if you're paralyzed and you can't walk?" Why? He thought that was an insane idea. And I said, well, think about it this way, two ways. If you're always in a wheelchair, you're always looking up at people, right? Think yourself on the back of a horse. Then you're finally able to look down at someone. That's one thing. But the other thing is the gait of a horse, the walking gait of a horse emulates our gait walking, the closest thing that you could get to our gait. So if you can ever walk again, get on the back of a horse and feel that gait, even if it's once a week or twice a week or once a month. But just think what that would feel like if you were that person and was able to feel that through. So not only physical therapy, but also mental health therapy. Horse therapies are very good for people with PTSD, mental health issues, depression, anxiety. Animal therapies, not only horse, but animal therapies have been very beneficial to people suffering from these problems when sometimes typical therapies, white clinical sterile environment therapies aren't working. So animal therapies are working. We have a capital campaign like any news does. Right now, our goal is $250,000, and you might think that sounds low, but this is in order to save costs and save startup costs. We are going to use some of the existing facilities at the Equestrian Center. Eventually, once the program grows, then we're asking the city for additional acreage next door, 50 acres next door. We've already started asking them for that, so that's on their radar. We've raised $145,000 of that so far. Some of our members are the Duval Ford Motor Company, Randall Marchman, and Dolores Barr Weaver Fund. The Duval Motor Company, I don't know if you are familiar with Tip Graham. He was instrumental in getting the zoo turned around and doing the Renaissance for the zoo. He was our original visionary that said he wanted to put a center, put a therapeutic center at the Equestrian Center. Unfortunately, Mr. Graham was diagnosed later with ALS, but during his disease decline, he used horse therapies. He had a carriage that he could take his wheelchair up to. It would elevate, and he could drive his horse with one arm. It was like a ski rope, but he used that therapy during his disease. And I'm sure that's something he would look forward to every day. So he was very instrumental. What this money will be used for is to get the facility up and going. We are accredited. It will be an accredited facility. We use it for staffing. We will offer services to two of the City of Jacksonville programs that they have, the Child Guidance and then the Kids Hope Alliance. We've just entered some conversations and had a very, very good positive Zoom meeting this morning with UF Brain Health Awareness. There's a program that we for veterans and first responders that will be at UF Shands downtown. And so we just had a very positive, and they want to use our program for their animal and horse therapy part. And again, there's endless possibilities for animal therapies for our community. So here's a couple of contacts, the Jacksonville Equestrian Center, and you can go on there and see some, what our events are, some things that we'd love for you to come out and see the place. Jack's Horse Therapies, again, the horse therapy one, and then my website, and I'll see if you have any questions. Yes, sir.
So a large number of stalls out there. Do you have horses that are permanently out there? So that's
No, we
just for
don't.
events.
It's for events. Not every event is sold out to that degree. Most of the events will have 150 to 200, but we do have some come, and we actually have to put up tents for extra stalls. They're in excess of 500 horses. So 422 is like Tampa has around that many stalls, and Perry, Georgia does. So for our area, it's a good number.
How will you interact with the Jacksonville Fair when it moves out to that site?
So great question. Thank you. It's all very, stages are very new, and we just had a very positive meeting with the fair group. I think there's a lot of things that can be mutually beneficial for both parties. And we have asked the city to allow us to be at the table when they plan it and plan that, so that we can use, there's certain buildings that they're only going to use once a year. And we could use them possibly several times too. They're looking at leasing our facility during the fair so they can have concerts, maybe rodeos. The horse show that's associated with the fair now has to go 2 weeks ahead of the fair because they don't have a facility down here. So now that can be at the same time. So I think like we need extra parking, we need extra RV spots, we need a multi-purpose storage building. So I think that we can, if we're allowed to, what we've asked to be able to work with them, I think it can be mutually beneficial. And the thing that I'm excited about is to helpfully bring the agricultural part back to the fair. It's kind of, well, they don't have the space here either. And I know growing up, I would always take my son down to Clay County Fair.
Right.
It was just, to me, I don't want to offend anybody, it was safer. It was more of a country fair. It was just, every year we'd go down there. I think I went to this fair one time. And, but I'm hoping that could bring that back. It could bring more of a country agricultural type fair, a safer environment that we would all feel more comfortable going to.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
A couple of questions.
Mhm.
One is, where do you plan to be in like 5 years with the facility? And I was also curious as to where's the nearest competing facility as you would view it?
The therapy or the equestrian center?
Equestrian Center.
So where do we have to be in 5 years? I mean, I hope the city sees that we've done a good job and they will keep us in the management. We're not charging them anything. We're all volunteer. But we are also horse people. And so we see the other group was not horse people. They would sell tickets to watch Susie go ride around the ring. Well, you're not going to pay to go watch Susie ride around the ring. You're already paying enough money for the horse and to get Susie there. You don't want to pay more money to go. So we hope that we'll continue. We're trying to bring in more revenue. So we want to add in more RV spots, bring in our own food service, and try to help with the revenue. The thing that the city, we try to explain to the city is there's only so many weekends in a year. We can't change that. And most of our events are weekend oriented. By adding the cover, we're able to add some, maybe sometimes do 2 events at a time. So by increasing revenue, which is what the city wants to see us continue to go towards sustainability, which is our goal, we want to service and more RV spaces and expand that way. So.
Where would the nearest competing facility be? Is there something in Waycross or Valdosta or anything?
No, actually, Perry, Georgia, and Tampa are the 2est.
Wow.
Right, 2est competing.
Question about your practice.
Mhm.
So you started in 91. What would you say are the biggest changes you've seen in your practice, large animal vets, since 1991?
So in the Jacksonville area, I see a lot of development going in. So I see a lot of the farms selling out, which is a little discouraging. But then I also see that the people that are keeping the horses, they're clustered at bigger farms. And they're also taking better care of them. They're spending more money on their horses. You don't get as many backyard horses, which is not a problem, but you just have more people spending more money on performance horses, et cetera. And then I think medically also, we just, we're doing regenerative medicine. We're offering a lot more. We can do, digital radiography. So just the modalities that we can offer here without having to send a horse down to either the University of Florida or Ocala, to one of the big centers there. What we don't have here, and I don't see that coming anytime soon because they're down just 2 hours down the road, it's MRIs, CAT scans, hyperbaric chambers, et cetera. So we're just able to, we know so much more now, we're able to offer so much more. So, and it's fun to be a part of that. My practice is geared towards a lot of performance horses, and people expect that to keep, these athletes are, they could be $400,000. And these people want to keep, we want the best care for them. So not all of them, a couple. So, but they want the best care for them.
So when you talk about horse events,
Yes.
how much money is involved in a horse event, and how many of those do we have a year?
So we, again, we have, I would say 47 events. They're not all horse events, but some of our events, like our bigger events, we at the Equestrian Center can make about $100,000 on those events. And so what we do when the promoters come in, they rent the facility, they rent the stalls, buy the stall. Now they turn around and sell it to their competitor or their exhibitors coming in. They sell it at a different price. That's how they make their money. So by us, the more stalls that we rent out, the more money we can make, the more RV slots we rent out, the more money we can make. If we bring our food service in-house, we can make more money. So, I mean, one of our bigger events, the ones that like Charlie asked about with the stalls, where they bring in actually extra stalls and have over 5, I think it's, they wrote us a check went for, it was over $100,000, but not all of them. Some of them are going to be 10,000 or, $50,000. Depends on how big the show is. That's how we make our money. Is the bigger the show, then the more money we're going to make.
When you talk about food service, this proves that I'm a horrible cook. But when you talk about bringing that inside, that's
Okay, so no, good question. I'm sorry.
Seems like it's a lot.
Well, so right now we contract with Anthony's. And
Okay.
so they come out and do this. So they basically give us a percent of what they sell. So our executive director that's there now has, he came from the Kentucky Horse Park, which is, I don't know if any of you have ever been there, but it's a fabulous facility. And he was there for years, like 19 years. So we're lucky to have him and his experience. And he has someone that wants to move south, and he's in the food business. So he would be in charge of that. So we would have that, when I say in-house, it would be under our control. So we would get, just instead of a small percentage from Anthony's, we would get a bigger piece of the pie. We need to add to the facility in order to that pat. We need to add a hood and some other things in order to the kitchen and update the kitchen, but that's what we'd like to do.
Okay.
And we're working with Daryl Joseph. He's really good to work with, and our councilman in the district, Randy White, the formal councilman, Doyle Carter, and he works for the parks system now. So they all know that this really is the crown jewel on the west side. And it really is if you think about it, downtown has the stadium and everything else. The beaches have the beaches. But the west side, they don't that. And then if the fair moves out there, it'll really give them a big feather in their cap. Yes, sir.
I'm a big fan of all creatures, great and small.
Mhm.
You practiced large animal medicine for 30 years. Do you have one great story you can share with the group from practice,
Oh, Lord.
horses and other animals?
Well, something that comes. Well, yeah, I have had several injuries. I've got a fake ankle. I had my, and a horse kicked me last year, right in the middle of COVID, April of COVID, kicked me. I broke my tibial plateau, and when I fell backwards, I broke my radius and I broke my collarbone. None of this was from riding. I do ride as a hobby, but that was not from riding. My husband keeps saying, give up the horses, but that wasn't from riding. But when I was first in practice, I practiced in Georgia, middle Georgia, Macon. And so I don't think they'd ever seen a female veterinarian, especially doing large animal. So I get called out to this farm one time, and it was the boss that I worked, he did a lot of cows, and I don't do cows, but I tried my best. So I get called out, and it's about 30 miles outside of Macon, and I go out there early one Sunday morning, and I had a down cow. Well, down cow usually is milk fever, you know, and you kind of have your little recipe book on how you're going to treat it if you don't know a lot about cows. So I got there, and this man looks at me and he goes, oh, great. And I said, what? He goes, well, I've got a broken arm and my brother's got a hangover and they sent you. I just drove 30 miles out here. Where's the cow? So anyway, there's a lot more, but it's been a good journey. I enjoy it. I love it. You know, I've got 2 good associates, but I still keep my nose in there.
Zebra.
So I have a client that has a license that she can have, and that was also her kangaroo that she still has, Connor the kangaroo. But she has a license and to be able to keep exotic animals. And zebras are really, really hard to work on, very, very difficult. And that particular one, Eli was his name, was in an abuse situation. He was in a petting zoo type situation. And so he always had some kind of chain around him and, you know, not a good situation. So she got him and she was able to rescue him. But we needed he needed his vaccines that day. We needed the farrier to work on his feed. He needed several other things. So it was easier. She said, can you come and dart him for me? Well, I have a dart gun. But I didn't know if it was just a little pistol. I didn't know if it worked because I hadn't used it for so long. So I asked a friend of mine who hunts deer, and I said, can I borrow your, well, he has a deer farm where he raises deer. I said, can I borrow yours? Well, it had this, it was this long, I don't know, long rifle with the sight on it, scope. So I get there and I think that it's going to be out in the pasture. And I'm like, okay, well, it was in a stall. I said, it was a 12 by 12 stall. So I said, I said, don't take a picture. This is really sad if I have to dart something with a sight on it in a 12 by 12 stall. So it was just for maintenance things. But he actually, unfortunately, he ran into a gate. He ran into something. He broke his neck. So he was they're just very difficult animals. But at least
they've never been domesticated.
Right. They're very difficult to work on. So, and then there was another one that was after that too, that she had, that was a little female, and she just stand in there, walk in there and start just kicking. She was not easy to work on either. Anybody else?
Have you done any work up at White Oak?
I did years ago. I haven't been there in years, but I did some work up on when Howard Gilman was there, way before it became, I guess it's more public now. Yeah. So I did some there, but I haven't. The University of Florida makes quite a few trips up there. They have wildlife up there, and you really need somebody that's
Very intellectual question. Can you really tell a horse's age by its teeth?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
How do you?
So you look underneath the teeth, and they have caps. If they're 10 and under, they have the black like kind of caps are dug out. And then you can look at the sides, the incisors on the top. They lose the outside inside. There's only 3 or 6 across. 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 is when they lose and get the permanent teeth. At 7, they have a little hook that you can see. It's called Galvain's groove. So there's a groove that starts at 10, and then it's halfway down at 15. It's all the way down at 20. So there's a lot of things in between those ages, but those are some of the some of the tricks that we use to tell.
And what does that mean? Heights.
Hand is 4 inches. So if it's 17 hand horse, it's 4 inches times 17.
Can you measure from there?
Their wither, the wither, which is right at the base of the mane, is the wither. Like where this little baby's jumping up on his mama, is back at the wither. So right where the mane starts is the wither. So,
No, no, we
That's
sound
right.
sophisticated now.
That's right. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, fascinating. Not only the equestrian center, but your career. And we would like to have someone come up to the microphone and speak and make a donation to the Rotary Foundation in your name for the eradication of polio. Thank you so much for being with us. Some reminders, next week, our speaker will be Mort Krim, retired national news reporter and anchorman who worked with Walter Cronkite. He is the news anchor they base Ron Burgundy on. I keep wondering about the clothes. Anyway, as we end our meeting, please join me in the membership motto as you rise. Each one bring one.